Frodo.
You know, I've spent the last week rewatching these movies, and I gotta say, of all the one-liners in this movie, and there are a ton, this specific line says more about the movie and the purpose than anything else in it. I think it sums up the idea that this entire thing is because a fucking hobbit wanted to play a practical joke on his birthday, ended up putting Elijah Wood into all this mess. If only there was a game that captured this moment, not the big battle, but this idea that everything you're doing is for one purpose. Now, I am not really a fantasy guy. I'm not really into the swords and the shields and the dungeons and the dragons. I do like them okay, but unless my fantasy has laser swords or a lot of blood and guts, I'm not really into it. But for some reason, The Lord of the Rings has drawn me in. And I think I have a pretty good idea as to why, but I can't quite put my finger on the word to describe it. Now, there are a ton of games with Lord of the Rings. Video games with the Shadows of Mordor, your Lord of the Rings Living COD games, your Hunt for the Rings, your War of the Rings, everything is of the rings. And they're all vastly different experiences, but I want something that is about that camaraderie, that idea of slipping through the cracks while all the madness is going on around you. That idea of really putting yourself in probably the strongest member of the Fellowship of the Ring, the little hobbits. If you were to ask me once a day, every day of the week, what I think the best or greatest board game of all time is, I might give you 7 different answers. But any day of the week, if you were to ask me what my favorite game is, you're only gonna get one. Ladies and gentlemen, The Lord of the Goddamn Rings. Lord of the Rings by Reiner Knizia is a co-op game in which you and a handful of your fellow hobbits try to take the ring from point A all the way to point Mount Doom. And this episode of the Hard 100 is going to be a little different. This being my favorite board game of all the times is... I feel like just doing the standard thing isn't going to be enough, so this is going to be a bit of a longer video. Strap on, and we're going to go through everything that I love about this game, a couple of things that I don't like, but really at the end, it's all subjective. I know board game is, as I mentioned, 10% what you play and 90% who you play it with, and I would like to introduce you to the exception to the rule. This is the Fantasy Flight Silverline edition. Now, this game originally came out, I believe, in 2000, which many of you smarty pants out there will realize that came out before the movies, which is why every bit of art in here is not going to feature your Magnetos and your Elijah Woods and your Agent Smiths. It's going to be more based on the books, which I haven't read, than the movies, which I have seen. Now, I think one of the reasons why I do love this game is mainly because the art drew me in. This art is by John Howe, which, if I am serving correctly with the old memory, is the gentleman responsible for, if not all, most of the concept art for the movie Lord of the Rings. And it really drags you in. It is one of those games where the art is the center focus of everything that is going on. Everything from the quest boards to the cards, everything is just so evocative. It's so good. Another reason why I purchased this game is because I looked at it a lot in the store, and I wasn't a big Lord of the Rings guy. I'm still not a big Lord of the Rings guy, but for some reason, the board games specifically and the video games have really drawn me in. But look at this. Look at this board and tell me what the fuck is going on here. I bought this game out of more of a curiosity than anything because I wanted to know, how is this played? At this point in my gaming career, I have played a lot of your Euro games and Ameritrashy games. I played co-op games, your Pandemics, etc. But this was a co-op, and I'm looking and I'm like, how does this work? This looks like something new. This looks So how does a game of Lord of the Rings work? Ladies and gentlemen, let's go find the fuck out. The first thing you are going to notice when I open this beautiful thing up is, well, not the rule book. We already, no, not the boards. The boards are all in here. We'll look at the boards in a second. Oh, what is this? Billy got into foam core a while back and he made his own insert. Now you know a game is gonna be hot shit whenever Billy makes his own insert. And I straight up did. Now what you will notice is there are two boards. There is your toppy board and there is your bottomy board. Let's talk about the toppy board first. Now what your toppy board does is a couple of things. One, it will show you the flow of the game, and it will do something else we'll talk about in a moment. So the game itself has you starting at the begin, going to Rivendell, Moria, Lothlorien, Helm's Deep, Schlabs, and then Mordor. So this is the flow of the game, the turn order. And every place where you're supposed to do something fancy, it's listed up here, including the setup of the game, which is really nice. And anything that is not having a thing is a quest board. We'll talk about that in a moment. Is that my finger? So you have your quest board, or not your quest board, your thing board. But down here, you're gonna have two things. You're gonna have Mr. Eye of Sauron, it's gonna go on here, and there are 3 levels of difficulty. We'll talk about how difficulty works to begin with. So you're gonna put your little dude over here, and you're gonna pick one of your hobbits. Everyone gets a hobbit, and then if they ever meet, then that hobbit dies. So there are 3 difficulties. There is, I don't like you, I hate you, and fuck you. Those are the 3 difficulties. And yes, your dudes are standees, they're not minis. We will talk about that in a moment. So once you have your Sauron, he goes on the board. Then you get to pick your hobbits. Depending on how many people you're playing with, you will have a variety to choose from. Now this game, we're gonna do a little bit of housekeeping in the meantime. This game is for 2 to 5 players, but you can play it solo if you play 2, there's like a way. But mainly what you're going to do is you always have to have Frodo, and he goes on the 0. Then, depending on, you can pick whoever else you want. We have Samwise the Gamgees. We have Merry and Pippin. I don't know which is which. And then we have someone who is only mentioned in the movies in a line and a half. Someone named Fatty. Fatty Bulger? And you're thinking, which one was Fatty? Now look, I know you're expecting me to make a Sean Astin Samwise joke, but that dude has brought me a lot of joy in my life, and I'm not gonna go there. He is a wonderful human being, and shame on you for thinking of that joke. And in typical board game fashion, these are all the peoples, and everyone's gonna have their own special thing they can do. I believe the only requirement you need is a Frodo, but it's your game, do whatever the fuck you want. And at the bottom, it's gonna say everything that they can do. The abilities are okay. Mainly you're gonna be playing with Frodo and Sam most of the time because that's just kind of how my brain decided to play it. So for example, Frodo, you may use any brown quest cards as wilds, and the threat die cannot cause you to discard more than a single card. Well, those are new ideas. What the fuck are those? Let's find out. Now, once you have set up and you get everyone's 6 quest cards, you do some preparations, and then you do some other stuff, that's when the little thing down here will move forward, and then you'll get to pick something else, and then you'll just follow those until you get to your first quest board. Now, before we talk about that, we actually have to talk about the elephant in the room. And that elephant is Frodo Begins. And to talk about Frodo Begins, we need to understand the concept of no Frodos. I think we need a change of scenery. Let's go, not to the Shire, but my backyard. Come on. God, nature is loud. So a long time ago, whenever I really first played this game, I played it with Phil, and we played it with another person. We were at a board game shop, and we decided, you know what, we're gonna be nice, and we're gonna bring people over, and we're gonna let them play with us, even if we don't know them. So we picked a gentleman who, there's another story about him, but we let him be Frodo, because in our brains, we thought he kind of really didn't seem like he was into it, but when we gave him responsibility, we thought he would really want to play. Now, Frodo's primary responsibility is to look at a handful of cards in the beginning, talk to everyone, and give people cards to help fill in the gaps of what their hand may be missing. It's a very big responsibility, and if you aren't really into it, you're just giving cards out at random, which it doesn't really help. And the entire time we were playing, he was looking over at the other table, wondering when they were going to finish. and he was just not paying attention. So from that moment on, the term no Frodos was created. It's basically anytime you are being distracted by something else. Let's say you are playing a game, but you're always on your phone. Let's say you're playing a game, but you're watching TV or trying to listen to music or talking to someone else, or even just whatever. You just look them dead in the goddamn eye and you go, hey, no Frodos. Woo, it's hot outside. So now that you have an idea and you have chosen the proper Frodo, you are going to then go to Rivendell, do some things, and Moria, and now we finally have an opportunity to play the fucking game. Let's see what Moria looks like. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Moria! Now Moria is where the fun begins. You're going to take your little quest item thing, you're gonna pop that right there. These are things that can happen. We'll talk about those in a moment. And then you're gonna take your other trees of Gondor, you're gonna pop one right there, and one at the bottom. So ladies and gentlemen, here is how the game is played. It's a little wonky, but I think we can figure it out together. Everyone is going to have a hand of quest cards. Now these are the cards that Frodo gets to do for Wilds, and every card is going to have a symbol on them. They are going to have shields, and they're going to have attackies, and they're going to have little hobbits walking, and they're going to have peace pipes maybe. Yep, there's a pipe one, and then there's a star. That is a wild. And what you're going to do is on your turn, you're going to draw a tile from a bag. Oh shit, we didn't even talk about the bag yet. Fucking let's go to the bag. I got a bag. What are you gonna do with this bag? What you gonna do with all that bag? All that bag inside that bag. I'm gonna draw a thing from the bag, draw a thing from the baggy bag, and the bag is gonna have one of those same symbols. All you're gonna do is you're gonna take the corresponding symbol, and then you're gonna find the track on the board, and you're gonna move that up. And if you move it onto a thing, you take those things. Now these things are things like money to buy Gandalf cards, little sun tokens, little ring tokens, and little heart tokens. The idea is at the end of a round, everyone needs to have at least one of those, because if they don't, then their ass is going to be moving forward to him, and we already mentioned he's going to be moving, you're going to be moving, ever the twain shall meet, you're going to lose. Now there's also a fun little bit having to do with the one ring. Now anyone can be the ring bearer, anyone. Frodo starts as the ring bearer, but whoever has the most of the ring tokens for moving up the board gets the ring, the precious. And what does the ring do? We'll get to that. But you can put it on to do things. Did the effect work? Did I do it right? But that is not the only thing in the bag. There are things like the timer that can actually move the little timer doohickey up down here. And this is where a lot of bad shit will happen. And at the end of the game, there are bad things that can happen which actually give you a game over. Game over! All your dudes die. Game over. Or the end game. There is also bad shit like this, which will cause you to do the quest thing, and everyone has to lose 3 cards. Now, whenever you draw something bad, that's not it. You have to keep drawing until you get one of the symbols, and that can be a nightmare. So there is a little bit of token counting in here, but I wouldn't rely on it too much, because once you get everything out of the bag, it all goes right back in. So after you've drawn from the bag, you're going to play 2 cards. You can play a silver card and a brown card. Not too brown, not too silver, or some things can break that. And then you're going to move those tokens up and take the things on the board. It's as easy as that. Now, the only other thing you need to know and be aware of as you go through, because once the main numbered section gets to the end, that is when you flip the board and move on to the next section. And then you have to go through all the boards, which are very, very pretty, until you finally get from Schlab all the way to Mauer Dower. And you can also lose in that last one. This is when you're going to be losing the most. So once you make it to the end of the board, everyone turns in their tokens. For every token you don't have, you got to move closer to Sauron. And whoever has the most ring tokens gets to be the ring bearer. Now, to better understand the ring bearer, first, you must understand the threat die. Fuck this thing. So anytime you come across anything that is a black square, you have to roll the threat die. The threat die can be any number of things, including nothing, moving Sauron once towards you, and Sauron cannot be moved backwards. But you can heal and move the other way on your turn. Instead of drawing cards, you can rest and move back one. You can take 3 damage, 2 damage, or 1 damage. Damage is you moving closer to him. You can discard cards, which was brutal. And this thing is the bane of your existence. So if you ever want to put on the ring, it's threatening. So you roll the die, and you get to move forward 4 minus however many pips are on the die. So if I want to move forward 4, I put it on, floop, I disappear, I roll the die, I move forward 4, minus 1, minus 1. I don't actually do the thing, I'm just counting the pips. And then you move forward and you don't get any of the benefits on there either, so it's a good way to get past some of the thready stuff. Yeah, it's 4. There's also another problem with the game that is kind of annoying, is you are going to be looking in this rule book a lot, because there are a lot of symbols on a lot of things, and a lot of things you're like, what is that? What is that? What is that? What is that? It's very well laid out, but it's just one of those things you're like, what is that? What is that? And there's some stuff in the back that kind of tells you what is what. That's the thing. You're going to go all the way through until one of 2 things happen. Either Sauron trounces all your dudes, in which case he wins, or you make it to the very last board and you move that little event thing all the way to the bottom, and the ring is Sauron's. There are also little things like, oh, all the runes you can do to buy Gandalf cards, which are super powerful. There is a lot of cooperative, what are you going to play, what do you need, this kind of thing. A lot of the extra specialty things will activate with the different tracks. And you can introduce new cards depending, like Shadowfax and Theoden, things like that, as you play the game. Let's talk about my exposure to Lord of the Rings in general. Now, for me, Lord of the Rings wasn't really a big thing. I didn't watch the first movie when it came out in theaters, didn't watch the second movie when it came out in theaters. I watched some of the first movie on VHS, and I made it all the way to Speak Friend and Enter. I fell asleep and never really went back until the last movie was going to come out. So I decided all my friends liked it. We were going to go to the midnight showing. They bought me a ticket, so I was like, all right, I might as well watch it. So I decided, you know what? If I'm going to go in, I'm going to go whole hog or no hog at all. And I decided to dive into the 4-hour plus extended editions. Tuesday, watched Fellowship of the Ring. Thought it was okay. Wednesday, watched Two Towers. I was like, oh, that was really good. And then Thursday night at midnight, we went to the Return of the King at midnight, got home at 4 in the morning, and I remember being underwhelmed. Just being like, okay, well, that was good. Never gonna worry about that again. But Lord of the Rings has a way of kind of sticking in you, sticking in your craw. You start thinking about, oh, that was cool. Oh, that was neat. Oh, that was cool. That was neat. And it just keeps going until eventually you're like, maybe I should watch them again. And so I did. I waited till they came out on DVD, because that was before all that, and I watched them all again. And I was like, okay. Over the years, you'll watch them again and again and again, and they just keep getting released, and I keep on buying and watching them. Now, the game I didn't buy until maybe 2011, 2012, so that was a distant memory. And it was this art that really drug me in. It's like sandpaper. It just stuck to my face and was just pulling me in. And been my favorite game for a long time, which is amazing because as far as franchises go, Lord of the Rings is not even top 3. I mean, I love Star Wars more than any of this. I like Marvel more than this. DC more than this. Fucking Friday the 13th more than this. Freddy Voorhees Jason more than this. But for some reason, all of the games based on those kind of things, it doesn't stick with me the way this does. And I think if it wasn't for the art of this beautiful man, that I don't think I would care for it as much. As this was just movie stills and that kind of thing, it wouldn't have stuck with me. If it wasn't, because he does all the art for basically everything. All of them. He's just all over the place. And anytime I see just cut out pictures from the movies and pasted on things, I just think, man, how much cooler would it be if it was this? And look, he's down there, he's getting stabbed in the stomach. So I'm not really a super fan of the movies. I like them, I'll watch them, but I'm a super fan of this game. Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come! Let's do some proper housekeeping. It is for 2 to 5 players. Now, I have played this solo with 2 and 3 with the aforementioned 9 Frodos. And it's, like I mentioned, this is the exception to the rule. I have played it with people who are super awesome and people who are goddamn no Frodos. And it doesn't matter because I love it every single time. Even if we lose, that's fine. But for some reason, it doesn't matter. I just love it. And if you can, try to find someone who will play it with you over and over and over and over again, because that way you can really kind of find the ins and outs, and that's when the card counting comes in. My wife played it with me basically every day for almost a week, and it gets better every time. I don't know how it happens, but it fucking works. We have it for ages 13 and up, who the fuck cares? And for 1 to 2 hours, it can be a bit of a long game, because as opposed to the co-op where it's gonna kill you early, like your Pandemics and your Robinson Crusoes, this is gonna kill you late. You're not really gonna downward spiral this. You're gonna keep moving forward with bumps and bruises until finally you lose, and you will 9 times out of 10 always lose on that last board. So you will have been playing it for about an hour and a half before things go sour, which is great because the downward spiral isn't an hour long. It's just, I thought we were doing so well. And then you get punched by the One Ring. So Lord of the Rings is, as I mentioned, my favorite board game of all the time. So of course it's in. Not what we're worried about. I just kind of wanted to celebrate the reason why I love this game so much. Even show you like the way the game works and you're working together. It's just good. It's fun. It's a unique experience. It's a unique co-op experience that is unlike anything else I have ever played. There is mechanics at play here that are so intertwined with the theme. It could be any theme. I don't think so. I really, really don't. Mr. Knizia, Dr. Knizia, made a game for Lord of the Rings, by Lord of the Rings, of Lord of the Rings, and it couldn't be anything else. Now let's go for a bit of a rant, and for that, I need to go back to the sack. Sack time! All right, so Fantasy Flight Games has just announced an anniversary edition for Lord of the Rings, and they put some little minis that look like hobbits, but they're the same sculpt, and a little ring to put them in, all plastic. And instead of the Eye of Sauron, it's one of the Black Riders, which doesn't make sense thematically in the game, even though it makes sense. Does it make sense, Olive? Yeah. Yeah? Not really. And then they made the threat die white to black. And that's it. So the game's been out since 2000. There were a number of expansions that were released for it that are not compatible with the Silverline edition, which is the one that I have, the one that most people have, because you can't find the original anywhere. Wouldn't an anniversary edition be better if you fucking released all of the stuff that we couldn't have for it? I mean, it exists. Just bring it to me. And the anniversary edition for this extra bits of plastic is like $10 more than it was back in the day. I agree. I do not think that is an anniversary edition or something worthy of anniversary edition. It's a reprint, which is fine, but don't call it any more than that just because you're putting a little bit of extra plastic, which takes away from the charm. I'm a standee guy. I like my standees. And I just wish they would release it. Maybe it will do well enough for people to understand its greatness, and they will release the expansions in the Silverline. Actually, I don't even know the size of the box. Maybe the new edition is a larger version? Didn't say anything like that in the press release or whatever, but don't give me hope. Don't give me hope. It's wrong movie franchise. Anyway, no. Now that little bit aside, I think that the new Lord of the Rings edition, if it were to have like a little upgrade pack with the little minis and everything, yeah, I'd get it just to be a completionist. And the fact that this game is kind of out of print now, I'm glad more people are going to be able to enjoy it. You know, I just wish. So Lord of the Rings, the board game based on the books by J.R.R. Tolkien, not the movies based on Peter Jackson, is wonderful. I highly recommend it. When it does come out later this year, I recommend you pick it up. And I am a little sad for the people who do pick it up and they're not able to get the little punchies and really experience this edition. But a little bit of Lord of the Rings is better than no Lord of the Rings, especially when it comes to the card game. Not the card game, the board game. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on this long and winded... No, wait, I can do a joke here. Thank you for going there and back again with me on this unexpected journey. Fucking nailed it for Lord of the Rings, even though that was a Hobbit reference. I hope you and yours are well. Ladies and gentlemen, wash your goddamn hands for Frodo. Peace out. Over tree and under hill, am I right? God, that's still hot.